New series, we dive right on into it as we start off on Pillars of Gold in the bottom left-hand side of today's quarterfinals of the Kung Fu Cup. Our blue Terran player is ByuN. And over in the top right-hand side, our red Protoss from Raise Your Edge is Zest. Game number 1 of this best of 3 series. And again, best of 3 is throughout the day until we hit the finals, which will be a best of 5. Yeah, ByuN and Zest, huh? I really think a combo which are very much so two players you kind of have seen a lot lately. These two were two of the players that continue to accept invites to almost everything, despite ACES qualifiers, TSL qualifiers, Super Tournament ongoing. I believe more recently, Zest has won the last couple of times they've met, but just in general, their lifetime history is pretty even. Slightly favorable to ByuN by 1 match and 4 maps. Obviously goes all the way back to 2013 even, 2016. 2017, 2018 they played a bunch, but they played a lot in 2020 as well. And it's always been back and forth. In fact, neither player had won 2 series in a row in 2020 until the most recent series where Zest won 2 in a row. So maybe something to point towards Zest's favor here. I think it's fair to say that ByuN's weaker matchup has probably been TvP as well. It almost feels unfair to say that, but his TvZ has looked great and looked really fantastic. His TvT keeps on impressing as well. I feel like TvP is the one matchup where we've seen him stumble the most, perhaps is the best way to say it. You know, it's the one matchup where we have seen him just sort of hit a couple of walls, and I think that's just because the level of Protoss players he does play against when he plays TvP is quite high, obviously. You know, you play against somebody like Stats or Trap on the regular. I mean, even Zest, right? Zest is also, and especially when Zest is probably better at PvT than the other matchups too. You know, all the Korean Protoss players you play have pretty good PvT as well, so I think it's almost like an unfair representation when you try and figure it all out. Now look at Zest, super fast Robo Bay. It's going to be a Colossus drop from Zest in these early stages. Something that Zest has done throughout this year, something that he's continued to set up for pretty much all of the time. His 4 Marines need to be careful, especially because there's another Adept on the way, and that's going to put them into one-shot territory on these Marines, so you really do want to be careful about how you fight this. If you lose 1 Marine right away when these Adepts shade in, that is a problem, as the Adepts commit. 2 Marines down already. Gets the SCV built in the bunker. And now you lose 2 of the Adepts, so only 1 Adept remaining, and this should be manageable. Just a trade out of early game units, right? And neither player really going to be super impressed or super upset about how that goes in the early few moments there. As this Adept going to shade on through. Terrific drive on the way up as the Colossus is going to be popping out in just a few moments' time. Adept is going to get back up into the natural. Prism speed on the way in. Just going to be seeing our medevac with Widow Mine is going to actually cross over the path of this prism, so that's a little bit awkward. It's like, oh, hello. And you don't see the prism speed, at least, as ByuN. And obviously, with his setup, his scouting has been minimal past the SCV early. So, only just now is he going to see RoboBay already. Obviously, you're going to find out very quickly this is going to be a Colossus drop. So, not the biggest issue there in terms of, you know, following up. But just immediately, you don't have a response to this. You've got to split some Marines up right now and just absorb this damage as best you can. See what the Widow Mines can do across the map. They go, find the Stalker that actually clips a few probes as well. 6 probes and a Stalker go down. Some Marines get cleaned out. Vikings going to come in. Targets the Colossus and then went for the Prism for a couple of shots. You're never going to kill that Prism with 1 Viking. If you could kill this Prism with 1 Viking, then this build would not exist at all. Yeah, obviously, if you can just shut it down like that, but that's the power of the Prism speed. You can relocate and you can go again. Oh, that was nice, though. Viking being in position right away is a pretty big deal. Hey, this is a huge deal now. You've got to recall the Colossus. Prism's too low HP to get back in. Here's a meme. If one Viking could shut this down, it wouldn't be a build. Well, yeah, one Viking just shut it down. And it kind of went a little bit too far forward there. As Zest should have been backing out a little bit sooner. Widowmine's connect, and apparently this Colossus taking a beating as well. Obviously, he took a few shots from the Viking, but it wasn't that low when it got recalled. So it also took a Widowmine shot. Now he went down. Oh my god, the Viking's going to find the Prism again. Okay, now I feel really silly. I mean, this is just a case of him making the wrong plays, though, right? I mean, nice saves. He's just being a little bit careless. He's just letting it fly too far forward multiple times over now. And this Colossus being low is kind of bad when it comes to this defense, because now how are you going to shut down, or now how are you going to really get aggressive with this? I say defense. Obviously, when it comes to the defensive ByuN, it's going to be great, because now the Colossus is so much more easily dealt with. The Viking goes into the main, by the way. It will land for some probe kills. And Zest has nothing to respond to this. Some Stalkers warping in now, but the Viking is target firing, so that's at least 5 workers he's going to get. I say just 5, 6 in the end. Again, always making up for the SCV losses that are being taken by this Colossus drop. So ByuN consistently finding answers right now to this play of Zest, which is very, very cool to watch. Always never really fallen into like a pit of despair or anything, right? He always seems to be, it's not like he's like, oh my god, I'm 10 workers down, how am I going to get back from this? It's, right, you've killed 5 of my SCVs, I've killed 5 of your probes, game's still even. I say 10 workers down. He's actually 8 workers down right now, but that's about normal, right? You are about to be on triple CC, so you can have extra mules to help out. And Zest only just got this 3rd base recently, no gases on it or anything just yet. He is about to have a Dark Shrine. He's about to have a Dark Shrine. He's maybe not about to have a 3rd base anymore. There's no recall available on this base. So it's very possible you actually just clean up. Well, you're going to get a lot of probes. Wow, is that just going to leave the game right there? That's going to be, well, I can't go back and rewind because we've got to get into the next game, but it's a pretty quick GG. Top right hand side, our blue Terran up 1-0 is going to be ByuN. And the bottom left, red Protoss is Zest for game 2. This best of 3 series. Get on Oxide, typically a map. We talk a lot about tanks on this map and all of that kind of fun stuff for Terran players. I honestly feel like we just go towards, we go look at Zest and we say, well, what does Zest have for us here? Opens Colossus drop game 1. Gonna see our probe just gonna head up into the main base and see what's going on. Maybe Colossus drop is actually just a dead build order. Yeah, the Colossus drop, honestly, like, Zest makes it work sometimes, but in this game the problem was he never got an advantage off of it, and it needs to get an advantage, I think, because otherwise you're very weak to counterattacks, etc., because you have no anti-drop play. So you just need to do more with the Colossus drop, and he actually did a lot with the Colossus drop. Initially and even continually, he was able to get some more SCVs, etc. It's just every time he did, he took damage himself. First ByuN hits him with the Widow Mines, then ByuN hits him with the Viking in the main. And now also imagine you don't mess up and you're forced to recall the Prism and the Colossus, because that was obviously a huge loss as well. And that basically lost you a minute to a minute and a half of harassment with the Colossus. So I don't think it's impossible to make this style work, and it's something we've seen from Zest before. He just made mistakes this game, and ByuN also played around it well and knew his ways to deal damage given the situations. He didn't over-respond to it, and he continued to get a little bit extra done as well. That was cool. Factory in the main base of ByuN. Bringing this up as a few Marines are going to rally out the front. Yeah, bunker is on the way down. Gateway setting up from Zest on the front of the natural. Stalker pops and... well, blink. Second gate. Obviously, options are wide open. Take gases, play Colossus off of this. That's something that a lot of Protoss players kind of like on Oxide. Just because of the Terran pushes and utilizing this choke point with tanks and stuff. They prefer to take the third base a little bit later. Rather than a third base. A third base at 4 minutes or so. Especially when you take a third base at 4 minutes, if you then play that kind of Zest style of Charge Lot and Stalkers, then how do you fight into this with Charge Lot and Stalkers? It's very difficult. And he's just going to drop down a 338 Nexus. That's pretty much the earliest Nexus you can get here. So he's going to go for it. You can still play Colossus off this as well, right? It's just, then you are going to be on a lack of units, and maybe we'll see if ByuN can take advantage of that. But for now, a 340 Nexus, he's going to take 1 extra gas. Not 2 extra gases just yet. I imagine you do just have to go rogue. No, I mean 3 gas. I think you do just play charge, right? You just play charge and extra gateways. Let's see. I think it's just charge and extra gateways though from Zest in the near future, as we have our engineering bay second racks from ByuN. His factory starports up, leads us into this Widow Mine drop, which will follow across the map. And we'll see how ByuN wants to continue playing as well, because obviously we go into a question of what does ByuN want to do here. Will we see a 3CC? Will we see a very aggressive setup? More gates from Zest, so like I say, I think Charge Lots and just utilizing those Blink Stalkers in high numbers looking likely right now. One Widow Mine just going to drop over here. Maybe okay, Stalkers have Blink. We'll blink in, but we'll not get a kill, and this Widow Mine actually going to load up. Going to unburrow one Widow Mine, going to trade it out for another. And just going to wait for these Stalkers to have Blink to set this Widow Mine off to make sure you don't lose anything. Hey, he's stopping 5 probes from mining, so that's already a bit of a win. Yeah, ByuN obviously low HP medevac, just has to get out of there. Might just set up those Widow Mines back at home. Just a bit of defense against a Prism that enters the main base or so. Bring a Prism low, make it just a few shots from Marines to finish it off. There's definitely uses for Widow Mines defensively at home, and you know, typically you move into Widow Mines after tank production early here as well, so it's also not bad just to have those Widow Mines for the later game army either. So there are definitely options and reasons to just say, right, I'm going to bring this home and go from there. As that's kind of wanders up the ramp and then realizes, nope, there's a tank there as well, so just going to blink out. Maybe felt as though you could make that kind of play into the natural and get some SCVs, but not going to happen, not this time around. As we saw on 3 gases, still the Immortal production comes up. We saw that be quite critical for Zest against TY. Getting a few Immortals out and making sure they were there to help him against the Marauder count building. So Immortals coming up, and then we've got +1 attack just on the way in still, being chrono boosted on the Forge. Still just going to push the bio back up to the top side, and a few of these Zealots and the Adept jumping into the Prism on the top as well. ByuN has pretty much everything joined up together. Going to go pushing down the bottom. I mean, it's a scary first push. That's why the Immortals are going to come in key. That extra bit of bulk in this army will be big, as we start to see the drop is kind of weird. 3 Zealots and an Adept. The Marauders here going to do well initially. The Widow Mines we talked about earlier get into defensive position, and looks as though they will help to turn this around. Loses a Widow Mine across the map. He only has 1 tank here. Pushing through this choke is going to be difficult with the force fields available too, and yeah, ByuN's just going to give it up, fall away. He has a 3rd CC coming up. He'd rather just kind of get into a defensive setup. He's going to lose a tank. Now, tank's not the biggest loss in the world because you're not looking to use tanks in the future, but it still is nice to have a tank over here. If you have a tank here, it just makes any attack in that little bit more expensive, right? So, a little bit of a shame. But nothing that ByuN is really kind of sat back in mourning. As we clean up the rocks. And we've seen the couple of units up on the top side, and the Marine gets taken down already. Robo base, second Robo facility coming through. Extra Zealots on the way. Stalkers come in, SCV. Gets picked off as well. That's going to be a dead 3CC. Oh, no. Well, ByuN's trying to capitalize on the nice catch on that observe. That literally just got there. ByuN trying to capitalize on the fact that, you know, Stalkers are across the map, but I can't believe Zest didn't finish the third CC here. I mean, ByuN just... I mean, this is why you don't cancel things straight away. It honestly might just be the reason you don't cancel things straight away. Perfect example of it. Third CC left alive. Now he's going to get to finish as ByuN kites the Zealots. Works his way into the Stalkers on the right-hand side as well. And this is obviously just a weird kind of 1-2 kind of, you know, left-right angle for Zest that he's trying to work. And these Zealots just kind of falling out down in numbers. The Immortals, though, are going to be the kind of real kind of, again, stronghold of this army. And finally, the Stalkers managed to get on the right side of this army. When I say right side, I don't mean to the right side. I mean just the correct side of the army. Just being able to go behind the Zealots and kind of get a bit tanky. I can't believe this third CC is being saved. I would have bet so much money that that was going to die the moment those Stalkers were there. Or not die, but would have been cancelled, you know? Bit of up and down action in the Prism. Widowmine's already burrowing up down on the bio, and a third CC of ByuN is going to come out up to the top side, so that's going to move over to position as well in the next few moments. Is third CC going to get going? A little bit of gateway movement from Zest in the center. Trying to see where things are happening. A single Marine going to stem out around the left side of this. A couple of observers finishing up on the Robos. The BIOS coming back up to the top. Command center is a little low on HP, but manageable for the moment, I'd say. Gets rid of these rocks, and well, the Widowmine is not really going to do much in this fight. They all died to Colossus. I mean, the Colossus have just shown up, haven't they? Out of kind of nowhere. We've been seeing Zest kind of fighting on a low-tech army this entire time, and now two Colossi are here. Well, ByuN shows up with some Liberators. Stalkers will get rid of these pretty quick. Only thing is, there's not really many Zealots, but man, those Immortals are going to do great against what is basically just Marauders remaining in good force field to stop units getting back to the natural. Widowmine's here connect on Zealots quite nicely, but now you've got an open third base that ByuN's just not being able to mine from. This is a pretty cool game. This is going to be seeing ByuN still trying to fight toward the end here. The army supplies are still kind of even, but ByuN is losing a lot of SCVs, and that's just not recoverable. And Zest is going to tie us up 1-1, take us the distance here in the quarterfinal. Got in the bottom right-hand side, the blue Terran player. Give it up if you're cheering on ByuN. Up against the red Protoss top left-hand side, it is Zest. We get this one underway. Game 3 of the series. And it's going to start us off with the barracks in the main base. Again, is racked up and running. Binary coming up as well. The probe of Zest going to make its way out across to the right-hand side. I mean, I actually think whoever wins this has a pretty good chance in the semis. Their opponent is likely to be Creator. So they're definitely the favorite to go to the finals. And then, I mean, if ByuN goes all the way, everything, obviously we know his TVZ is great. If Zest goes all the way, well, Zest PVZ can be scary too. I think I prefer ByuN, then the Zergs, and then Zest maybe. Maybe depend, maybe ByuN, Solar, Zest, Creator is my favorite to win the tournament right now. But that's if ByuN beats Zest. I think ByuN beating Zest is still maybe the most difficult match in his way right now. Our cybernetics core will finish from Zest, so getting this completed. There's the adept just on the way up as well. So getting that going. Warp gate now starting on the cyber core as mentioned. Reactor coming down on the barracks. A lot of build up, a lot of setup for the moment here. As we get ourselves again game 3 of this series. Just getting things nicely underway. This adept is going to shade out down onto the map, so adept coming down the low ground. Twilight Council already moving into the main base as well as previously mentioned, and again just warp gate taking it along nicely. It's going to be about halfway done. Couple probes coming through in the factory, setting up into the main base as well. So factory coming in. Now we do have our marines. Gonna set at the front. They're gonna start dealing some damage. The adept taking a few shots. Game really does just open pretty calmly. You know, considering we've seen previous games where adepts have gone down early, you've been fighting marines, having all that kind of aggression. This one really sets up just nice and peacefully. Just going to be a bigger map in general as well. As Zest, man, he's pushing the limits on this third base. This was a 334 third base. I talked about a 338 last game. 334. Again, just sets him up to probably just take a third gas and a lot of Zealot Stalker initially, and then there's actually, like I say, last time it was kind of looking kind of okay for ByuN, but then Colossi just arrived, and honestly even caught me off guard. I will come out here and say it. No worries. Yeah, I'll admit. Two Colossi, what the hell were they doing showing up? like hello? Yeah, they really arrived out of nowhere as a couple Stalkers and a Sentry setting up on the natural. Medevac down over here. A couple Widow Mines inside. Going to move across to the left. Making its way along. It's going to come up and into the natural momentarily as we have the Stalkers showing up. And, well, Widow Mine's going to get burrows. Stalkers and blink. That was a pretty good way of handling this. Just set the, you blink away from the Widow Mine and into the Medevac. So you just clean up everything. No damage taken. ByuN unsuccessful in the first attack of the game. He just goes into, that's an early +1 attack upgrade, by the way. Early engineering bay. So quick +1 attack. Let's go second and third racks. Raven's already coming through. Siege tank setting up. What has ByuN got planned? It's not typically a good map to go aggressive on. It's very difficult to get into good positions here with even a tank push. Like, where do you really push in from? You go up this side, you come in here, and you kind of push from, well, it's kind of flat ground because you already make your way up this ramp over here. Maybe that's your best option as to breaking down this third base or doing something. I mean, you can push up this ramp as well, but then you're pushing up a ramp. I mean, tanks on the low ground here and pushing up the ramp, I think, is the more common setup, but these tanks don't cover anything anything great. You know, this Robo will never be in danger, maybe this gateway at most, but they cover like this sort of space, so they don't hit a base. They don't put you under immediate pressure as Zest. They just say, hey, be careful about where you're moving to, otherwise you might be in some more trouble. Prism settles down, doesn't move all the way into the main here. The Raven of ByuN is off and away to the top of the map. So the Raven is off on a journey. The Storm's about halfway done. The charge finishing. Extra gates still coming through. And a couple of extra racks on the way. And the main base going to make this 5 racks in total. Stim and combat coming in still. Medevacs are finishing. And well, the Raven really does want to think about maybe making its way into the main. Just to harass a little bit. He's going to unsiege his tank. And his army supply is way up there. But you consider how many gates there are. 1 warp in. And Zest is going to be matching that army supply of ByuN, no problem at all. So Let's see. I mean, right now it's really a question of tech over numbers. Because Zest is up onto Storm, right? You know, this is a way earlier Storm than what we've previously seen. So, faster Storm. That should make it just difficult in general for ByuN to really fight here. Sorry, a bit of a miscontrol on the mouse. Fire out around to the left in the Prism of Zest. 4 of these Zealots make their way to the natural. So unloading on the right-hand side, we do have the bio up the left as well. Now moving up to the top, we do have a few units from Zest just really out of position. Not thinking about just dropping into the natural expansion. Tanks set up to the left side. If these tanks can get rid of some of these High Templar, but doesn't really see it happening, and so, well, you know, he gets rid of most of them. That's not the worst case scenario, right? I mean, you kill 5 probes, and you're gonna lose everything though as ByuN. Literally everything, right? I mean, 135 to 107 supply. He lifts up this army and just gonna bring it back across. Okay, there's not really any storms left, but you don't really need storms right now. You know, we're gonna be running on fumes to try and hold on. I mean, this was just a horrible fight. You know, it looked okay because you get rid of the High Temple on the low ground, but then you only really kill 5 probes high ground, and then you realize just how much was lost on that low ground. There's a good chunk of bio, plus all the tanks. And now what are you playing with here? A couple Vikings about to pop out. 1-1 versus 1-1 upgrades, so that's even. You're gonna catch an Archon. I mean, hey, these are the kind of plays you need to be making right now as ByuN. Patches like this. This is very obvious where Zest is gonna attack from. If you're moving over this left-hand side, where the hell else are you going to be? As ByuN tries to deflect the Warp Prism. Well, SUVs down that are building depots might slow ByuN a bit, but he's actually not in danger of supply blocking just yet, so... yeah, ByuN's going to hold on at least. It was a scary moment or two, but after a pretty bad fight, able to bring it back just a little bit even. Let's see that army supply dropping down, how bad that fight was for him, just to really show you what's up. Bit more Stalker model out the left-hand side. A Prism up on top. Zealots are coming through as well. It's going to be having our Robo Bay already starting in the natural. Let's bring the Robo Bay up as our units go over to the right-hand side, and we'll just push through the center. So Zest is just happy taking an extra base. Now ByuN's going to start expanding himself. I do like where ByuN is getting to. You know, he's about to hit Ghosts with the EMP upgrade as well, so he's going to be on a point, at a point where he's getting an army that can realistically fight against what he's up against. That's good news. He's getting Vikings as well, so he's going to have the anti-air stunner builder, I think, initially right now, just to help him against the Prism, but will help against the Colossus transition too, and that is the typical next step from here. It is a bit of a weirder route that Zest has gone about in this game, right? The Storm opening is not one you talk about a lot. Nowadays, we don't see a lot of Storm in TvP, just for the fact that, you know, going into Colossi is popular early, and then you lead into Disruptors, and at that point, you don't really need Storm to fill a role. But this is that classic sort of, once you've got Storm, you can then tech switch into the Colossus, and then it's, you know, a question of, can the Terran player deal with the switching tech, deal with the switching AoE, and find a way to manage that. Now, army supplies are still kind of favoring Zest, but I do worry a little bit that a lot of his army is this kind of Stalker force, which on its own is not kind of the craziest thing, right? You know, it's very Stalker heavy. There's a ton of Zealots around this right-hand side, though, as ByuN rotates back over. He's going to get caught, isn't he? Coming down this ramp, he's going to try and drop a couple of EMPs. He hits the Immortals. He needs to find an EMP on the Zealots. Otherwise, the Zealots are going to be way too tanky to handle. He has the ramp, but then the Storm shows up. I haven't seen a Storm in a little while, but now a couple of them drop down already. The Vikings will go and chase the Prism. He's going to stop the Warpins at least. And he will have a few Vikings to get a few shots on the Colossi initially. I just don't think it's enough. Zest pushes up this ramp. The Colossi will not fall. He still has a Storm. And now SCVs are pulling into this as well. They will drop very quickly with Archons and Colossi to splash them down. The SCV count is dismantled. And Zest is going to win his 3rd series in a row. here against ByuN. That's really kind of showing that Zest has kind of got ByuN's number lately. Definitely seems to know how to win out against this. GG's, and that's gonna be that. It is gonna be ByuN falling for Zest to go to the semifinals here today.